we have a lot of gasoline and a lot of matches that any combination here can come together.
Over the centuries, over the millennia, Jerusalem certainly has been a center of conflict.
And that's something people need to consider about Israel, is that they are under essentially constant war, or a version of it. If it's not from actual standing armies, it's from terrorism.
Israel became a nation in 1948, declaring its independence from Palestine, which was not an independent nation itself. Palestine was under British rule then.
And so then immediately once Israel declares independence, a war breaks out. Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Israel ends up winning that war.
That led to the population of Gaza and the West Bank as we know it now. But first, let's look at the year prior, 1947, the year the United Nations created UN Resolution 181. It was a plan for a two-state solution, the creation of Palestine and Israel as independent nations.
What the dual-state solution was intended to do was to carve up Israel, not in a contiguous way, but kind of gerrymandering the map so that each side would get access to seaports, for example, access to certain areas. The Jewish Israelis in this case accepted that. The Palestinians and the Arab states did not accept that solution.
Modern-day world leaders are still discussing how to reach that two-state solution.
The problem is that for Israel to have a two-state solution, you have to have countries surrounding Israel agreeing that they will not attempt to attack and destroy Israel. And that's been the biggest sticking point.
But back in 1947, the disagreement led to war. The Israeli victory forced Palestinian refugees into what's now known as the Gaza Strip.
700,000 Palestinians were made into refugees, and many of them went to the West Bank, which is an area near Jordan, and many of them went to the West, which is the Gaza Strip, which was controlled by Egypt.
The Gaza Strip sits along the Mediterranean Sea, bordered by Egypt to the west and south, and Israel to the north and east.
It's an area that stretches essentially from Stone Oak to downtown in terms of length and width, essentially from 281 to I-10 on 1604. It's not very big.
After the 1948 war, Palestinian refugees flooded into that small area and to the West Bank, which sits to Israel's north. The West Bank was controlled by Jordan and Gaza by Egypt. But that changed after 6 days in 1967.
The so-called Six-Day War.
Tensions between Arab groups and Israel were rising.
Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and those areas wanted to see the creation again of an Arab state or a Palestinian state, but that would only come at the expense of Israeli territory.
Israel launched an air assault in June 1967 and won 6 days later. It took control of Gaza, beginning an occupation there, and
they had seized the West Bank and basically seized Jerusalem completely.
Jerusalem, perhaps the most significant spot on the map for the world's three biggest religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
The Hebrew Bible describes the city, is identified as the place where God lives. And that's why the Jerusalem temple was built there. In the New Testament, Jerusalem is a location where Jesus was crucified and resurrected. In Islam, in the Quran, there's a night journey where Muhammad is ascended to heaven, and that supposedly takes place in Jerusalem. All three religious communities, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, really do have their founders associated with this city.
For thousands of years, the conflict rooted here has shared a religious root as well. And so does the next date on our timeline, 1973, the Yom Kippur War.
Israel was basically high holy days of Judaism, a combined force of Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, and Iraq attacked Israel during Yom Kippur.
It turned into another Israeli victory. The country captured territory all the way to the Suez Canal. Later, Israel returned that land to Egypt in a peace deal. In the years that followed, there were two Arab uprisings, or intifadas, that lasted years themselves.
Which was Palestinians who were fighting for more autonomy in the case of Gaza and the West Bank.
The intifadas resulted in thousands of deaths of both Palestinians and Israelis. Finally came the Oslo Accords in 1993, an agreement between Israel and the group representing the Palestinian territories.
It allowed self-government to Gaza and parts of the West Bank. That's what the Israelis agreed to. And in turn, the Palestinian Authority agreed to recognize Israel. And that was a significant step.
But a diplomatic agreement did not stop the fracturing of the Palestinian Authority and the rise of Hamas,
which is recognized as a terrorist organization, which does not recognize the right of Israel to exist.
Hamas won election in Gaza in 2006 after the Israelis left in 2005 following the Second Intifada. There has not been another election in Gaza since.
Essentially, the people running it are running it because they have the guns and the power to do it.
Blockades on Gaza's borders with Egypt and Israel control people coming in and out of Gaza. Today, some 2 million people live in that roughly 140 square miles.
According to some human rights group and some Palestinian, it's an open door or open air prison in some ways, because they're at the mercy of Israel and Egypt.
It's very easy for people to put, people into boxes of either being pro-Palestinian or pro-Israeli.
It's a no-win situation for the people living there.